Good evening. Thank you guys for coming and for coming in. I know we have some viewers at home tuning in, maybe from the car, maybe on the way to tonight's football game away at Bridgewater. So good luck to them and everyone participating. But this is our 12th grade college and career planning night. So perhaps you were with us back in January when we held our junior college planning night. Junior, when they were juniors, who was here or tuned in or watched it at some point? And then even 9th and 10th grade, early college planning night. Has anybody watched them all? Okay, this is it. This is the final program. So this is it, senior year. It's exciting. Gosh, we've been back to school for about a week and it feels like months, but that's senior year, right, colleagues? That's senior year. It's a wild time. Things are moving fast. Today we started meeting with our seniors in groups. I think we saw probably about 215, 220. And they were across two groups. We have more groups tomorrow, Friday, end of the week, more on Monday, and a final one Tuesday. So what that is, when we say groups, those are our sessions that where we're presenting this. We're giving this to the seniors. And they're choosing to come down, choosing a block that works well for them, to come down and get a lot of the same information that we're going to share tonight. So those of you tuning in from our live stream at home, if you're just listening, you won't see this, but if you're watching us on live YouTube, there is going to be a link at the bottom of every slide. Obviously, you can't click on it, but you can type it in. It's just a shortened link, HCRHS question, so it's a bit.ly link /HCRHS question. That is a link you can go to. It's a very simple one-question Google form, and it's how you can ask a question. So if you're at home and want to ask a question, or you're here tonight and want to ask a question, you're welcome to go from your mobile device and type it in. We will have a brief Q&A at the end, and we'll save all the incoming questions by the form and your questions for the end, and we'll repeat them all so everybody at home and here can hear them. So I dove right into that without telling you who I am, but I'm hoping that through communications you may know by now. But I'm Jen Nectarline. I'm the college and career counselor here at Central, 16th year, which is really hard to believe. And then I'm joined by this esteemed group of counselors who get to serve the class of 24, all 700-ish of them. So Jen Wagner, who has the beginning of the alphabet, coming up on a year with us, which is crazy. That went really fast. Jacqueline Capola in the middle of the alphabet, and Kevin Cubberly at the end of the alphabet. So I'm kind of a senior every year. I jokingly tell the students I get to do this every year. And so I kind of join in with each team each year. So I get the pleasure of working with the three of them. We saw a lot of each other today, and that's okay. But we saw your students too, and it was a fun day. So again, if you're just tuning in, just some brief intros, and we've got a question link there at the bottom, and certainly anyone can use that. So this is what we're going to go through tonight. We're going to move through the topics. If you know someone who couldn't be here tonight, obviously we're live streaming. That live stream is going to be available immediately. It lives on our live stream site for a little bit, and then it gets pushed over to the Hunterdon Central YouTube station, which is loaded with great videos. All of our previous counseling programs, you'll see there's sections, you scroll down to counseling programs, and that's where this video will eventually end up. So you could watch this as soon as 8 o'clock, 8:15 when we're done on the live site, and then it'll get pushed over. So please share that with anyone that you know that couldn't watch us or come in live. So here's some topics for tonight. We're gonna review the class of 23. I think that's so important. I think it's really good to see how the class did last year. I got to have some fun with that data. I did some professional development courses this summer for staff, and I got to dive in and show some of our teaching staff how the class did. They don't always get to see the full picture, so I get to share that with you tonight. We're going to talk about some trends going into this next cycle. Senior year, where do I start? That really big question, where do we start? So we're going to get you started. And then just down through admission plans, ways to support your child, alternatives to four-year college. I mean, I can't assume everybody here is thinking four-year college. Maybe that was your intention coming tonight, to learn about the four-year college process, and we will go over that. But your situation could change, and I've seen it change all of my 15 years here already. where students apply to four-year college, perhaps they get in, they get some offers, but their life changes in April or May, and all of a sudden they're taking a different pathway, and that could be to community college, it could be to a gap year, it could be to work. So we'll talk about some of those alternatives. We'll finish up with some things about athletics, a couple housekeeping and reminders, financial aid and scholarships, and try to wrap us up even with Q&A by about 8:15. Again, the question link is at the bottom, and anybody is welcome to use that. All right, so here's our review of last year. And there was a little bit of change when we look at that percentage breakdown. Pretty consistently, I would say for the last decade of my time here, we've been about 70% of the class going to four-year college, and that's even with our class size fluctuating. I remember I started here a while back, we were just over 800. This senior class is about 700, give or take, when we start to count in different groups of students out of district and things like that. The classes are getting just a little bit smaller than that, but we've still maintained around 70% for many years. What did change was our percent of students going to two-year college actually went down a little bit, and our other percent went up. So two-year college was usually about 18, 19, 20%. It went down to about 16. And our other percent, which encompasses all of the other options that are not four-year college or two-year college. So we're talking about our trade schools, apprenticeship programs, work paths, military enlistment, gap years, not sure. All of that kind of went up. So, and I would say I saw a big uptick in employment. Students saying, I'm not going to college, I'm not going to take classes, I'm going to go work full-time. Whether that's picking up the job they had in high school and turning that into full-time work, or taking on something brand new. So a little bit of fluctuation there. But when we look at that 70% of our class from last year, I just like to share this. And I know I've abbreviated how I kind of think about everything I do in my own head, so I'll spell out some of my abbreviations if you're unsure, but this is where our class of 23 matriculated. Nothing outrageously new. I really love to watch the schools that kind of ebb and flow, the hot schools, the trending schools, but everything here was pretty straightforward. So our top five, RVCC, Raritan Valley Community College, which is our outstanding community college option, shared by Hunterdon and Somerset counties. Amazing school, great place to continue your education, and then even to continue after RVCC, they'll set you up really good. Followed by our State University, Rutgers, with the majority choosing New Brunswick, the College of New Jersey, Rider, and Rowan. So those schools are consistently in our top five, and we're talking numbers in the teens, 15, 16, 17, 18, Rutgers up into the 40s, and RVCC, I think, hovered around 75, give or take. 8 or more of the class of 23 chose Kane. Kane's always in there, but that was a little bit higher this year. And then we get into some of our larger mid-Atlantic state universities, Penn State, James Madison, University of Delaware, University of Pittsburgh, Fairleigh Dickinson in state private school, that shot up. My alma mater, West Virginia, I had nothing to do with that. Trust me, nothing to do with that. Those students chose that school on their own, very proud to see some future Mountaineers. But those schools all got 8 or more of our students. And then this is our 5 and up. So 5 is a good number. I mean, we are a big school, we are a big class, but sending 5 students from one class is commendable, and the college realizes that, and that carries into the next class. So these schools got 5 or more: Northeastern, University of Rhode Island, University of South Carolina, Virginia Tech, University of Scranton, Delaware Valley University, just over the border in Doylestown, Ithaca College in New York, in-state Montclair, Moravian just over the border in PA, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Temple, and the Culinary Institute. 5 or more future chefs. So we'll take it. That was really exciting, and that kind of spread, and we've got students at the CIA, so we'll see. So a really nice array of colleges. We've got big schools where our students are going, big state universities, obviously in-state and out-of-state, small private schools, and just kind of some new things scattered in there. So, we've seen and heard these names from all of our seniors. If I had to say, what's trending this group, I'm hearing a lot of Carolinas. We're always hearing a lot about the Carolinas. I don't know if that's where you're all headed after this path in this chapter of your life, but that's where they're going, okay? So a lot of North Carolina, a lot of South Carolina, and not always the big schools. Students talking about schools in the Carolinas, Virginia, nothing too out of the norm. So your kids are gonna come home and tell you, yeah, half my classes, class, not class, like their actual classroom classes is applying. Everyone's talking about this school, that school. So you're going to hear trending schools, and that's pretty normal. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of our class last year, who are off and running and doing their things. So a couple of trends, again, if you're just tuning in from home, we have a link at the bottom of every slide if you'd like to throw a question, and we'll get to those at the end. Some things that are trending going into this cycle right now. Nothing terribly different than previous years, but we're continuing to see the effects of test optional admissions. What that's allowing is a wider range of applicants. So students who don't test well, they're putting their application in. They're going to kind of throw it out, see what sticks. They don't have scores. They're going to give it a shot. So it's a wider range of applicants and just in general, more applicants. I can't think of a single school that I heard from in the spring who started to send us like the snapshot of their year who didn't say we had an uptick in applications. So everyone's apps are going up, but colleges don't grow overnight. They can't just all of a sudden build new dorms and have more beds and have more class space. So in turn, that affects our students because now they have to become a little bit more selective. With that, apps up, we actually, I would say for the first time in probably 3 or 4 cycles, did not see selectivity rates do anything crazy. If you happen to have a child who's applying to really selective schools, Ivy League level, just a tier below that, all of those admit rates stayed pretty steady. I mean, we're talking about admit rates sometimes that are in the single percents, 6%, 8%. Those are uber selective schools, but they stayed pretty steady even with the uptick in apps. But our students still have to be aware. Okay, so a school that originally, 6 years ago got 30,000 apps and now has 45,000 apps, there's something that's going to happen in that admission office. They're going to look at applicants a little bit differently. And I do think a lot of that is test optional admissions. I think a lot of it too is continued uncertainty for students. So I don't know where I'm going to get in. I'm not submitting scores, or, we're still reeling from the pandemic impact on admissions. I'm just going to apply to 13 schools. And 3 or 4 years ago, they would have applied to 7 or 8. So more applications, uncertainty, test optional admissions, all adds to a little bit of a little increase in selectivity, but overall rates were pretty stable last year. I didn't see any tremendous surprises when we had May of 23 roll around and our students got their results and put deposits down. We did well. I think the class of 23 did well. They went off to great schools. They matriculated to over 160 different colleges. We absolutely had students in the Ivy League, the tier just below, very selective, and all over the country and even beyond the border. So overall, they did really well. Moving into that third bullet, when you're not submitting scores or you're submitting scores, the importance of the things that are not black and white, like the things that aren't the hard factors, the GPAs, the courses, the test scores, the other stuff is really becoming important. So college essay, supplemental essays, activities, all the things where the students actually get to have a little bit of control over how they spend their time, how they present, how they spend their time. That stuff's really increasingly important. And this class, at least the 2 groups we ran today, we reiterated what we talked about with them in junior year, and that's like, your activities matter. You need to display those activities really strongly on your applications. Don't sell yourself short. Don't leave things out that you think aren't important because you just do them every day. If you just happen to have, significant family responsibilities every day, like getting your brothers and sisters off the bus, but to you it's normal, it's just something you do. To a college, it's actually a pretty big deal because that's a big responsibility. So we're pushing the importance of those soft factors. We're pushing strong essays, having sets of eyes on their essay, an English teacher, you if they'll allow it, and we understand if they won't, that's not out of the norm. Us, a friend, a peer review, these things are adding up in the application process. And then last, college is ridiculously expensive. I can't tell you, that was the toughest spring we just had ever, at least in my office, in talking about college cost. So every year there's conversations about cost as we go through financial aid packages coming in, February, March, April, and we're on top of the decision-making process. It gets emotional, it gets difficult for families, but spring of 23 was like nothing I had ever experienced, and I told the juniors about it. You're seniors now. We met with them right near the end of the year, about late May, early June, and at that point in time, we originally met with them in January to kind of kick off college planning, but I was able to tell them a little bit more about how the class of 23 performed when we saw them at the end of the year, and I told them this was a significant year for college cost conversations. I sat with a lot of seniors who did great. They got into great schools. They got a little bit of scholarship money, but ultimately it came down to looking at the charts and the papers and seeing they got into 7 or 8 schools that averaged $55,000, $60,000, $60,000 a year, and they got $10K a year. So a little dent. Okay, and they said, we can't afford 40, 45K. I thought that they would give me 20. I thought they'd give me 30,000. I go, you can never assume a school's going to give you that kind of money. So there was a lot more of that conversation last spring than I've ever had. I had students very quickly seeing who's still accepting applications in New Jersey. I had students going back to their list and saying, well, I think I'm going to go here. And you can feel that energy from them, that they might feel like they're settling, but they're making the financial decision that they have to make. And we also saw some of those students choose community college. So costs are up. Colleges are outrageously expensive. So we're really pushing this year, for the first time ever, the addition of a New Jersey state school to the college list. Now, I'll preface that and just say it doesn't have to be on there. And if it's just an add to add, that's not wise, because if that ends up being the sole school where your student gets in that your family can afford, and they don't really want to go there, they just added it because we said to add it, that's not a wise decision. So I would sit with your child, I would talk over this. There are fantastic higher education opportunities in New Jersey, public state schools. I'll mention a couple: Rutgers, the College of New Jersey, Kean, Montclair, NJCU, Stockton, Ramapo. I mean, there's several, and I don't want to leave any out. They're all amazing. And I say that because they are incredible values too. So it's going into this process not just assuming we're going to get aid, like let's throw a bunch of 70K schools on and hope they come down to a Rutgers. That's really unrealistic in this economy, that you're going to get a half ride, and they're going to knock 30, 40 off your tuition to bring it down to Rutgers price. So please be cognizant of that. Talk with your students, and then we get the looks from students. Well, I don't want to go to New Jersey. I want to get out of here, and that's not uncommon. We've heard that a lot. They want to leave the border. They grew up here. It's time to move on. Perhaps you're supporting that too, but it's being wise and realizing that those schools may not come through with the aid that you expected. So having a New Jersey option on the list is wise. And then also, we're going to talk about this just a little bit tonight, but we've really enhanced our curriculum around alternatives to four-year college. Two-year college is obviously one of those options, but trade school, adult education, polytech, we do certainly talk about the military with those students who are interested in that. We're starting to run programs covering all of those options twice a year. So we're running them late November, early December, and we're going to run them again in the spring to catch those students who are not on the pathway to four-year college, or those that just want to listen in and say, you know, I should probably see what the RVCC enrollment process is all about, or maybe look at some trade programs just in case this four-year college path doesn't pull through for me. So just some trending things and things you may hear about as we move through. All right. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time in this next topic. Again, if you're tuning in from home, thanks for joining. On all of our slides, we have a link for asking questions. You can just plug that into your browser, use it as needed, because I am going to pull away from this screen here in a little bit. But this is a question we get from students, from parents, and our students are already there, they're already starting, but it's a common question from parents is like, where do we start with this? Perhaps it's your family's first time going through the process, or perhaps maybe you went through the process, but it's been some time. So we start here with these three major areas, followed by the use of resources. The first being organization, finding a way to organize. I'll show you a couple ways here. Focusing on a healthy college list, and then actually going through our step-by-step procedure. So with these tools, followed by the use or the continued use of your resources, your counselors, our website, the guides and things we put together for students and parents, this process works, and it does work actually pretty seamlessly by following these things. So when families say, where do we start, what's the first thing? It's getting organized. There's a lot coming at students and even you through the email, through the postal mail. If you're part of any different groups online and through social media, you're hearing people talk about this process. I would stick with your home base and focus on your process within your family, your student's process. So I'm going to open up a couple of things. I'm going to go first to our school website, where we house all that you really need. Tonight's presentation will go there, the slides will go there, but really Ultimately, everything you need is right here. So we have a guide to filling out the Common App. The Common App is the application platform that our students use. It's taken by over 1,000 schools, and it's what we encourage the most. We have these counselor questionnaire forms that were actually due last year when they were juniors. I'll touch on those a little bit. We have the procedures. That's the big one, the meaty one. And then we have a process just linked in here for getting recs outside of school. So I am going to go in here, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time in here. This is on our website as a Google Doc. So as changes are made, they'll be there. We're sharing, this is the bulk of what we're sharing with students in their groups, and I'm encouraging them not to print it. I know it feels like something that would make a lot of sense to print. It's about 5 pages. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but there's also live links in here going off to other places, and there's tweaks still being made. And I'll say why. And the reason is the driver behind this whole process, what we use here at Hunterdon Central for sending transcripts, letters of rec, organizing the college list, all of that, it's called SCORE, SCOIR. And we rolled out SCORE last year through a phased process to replace Naviance. Naviance was the college and career software we have used here for over 20 years. SCORE is a new, much more intuitive, user-friendly product for both students and staff. So this is our first cycle, our first application cycle using SCORE. We've done a lot of testing. We've done a lot of looking at it. We've talked to a lot of high schools who already use it and use it successfully, love it a little bit more than the previous product, but we're still making some fine tweaks. I think we've nailed down after today's groups everything we'd like to have in this document, but I'm not going to go line by line. We are doing that with the students because it's their process. I'm going to sort of summarize, but you can read as we go through. So the first thing is organization, like I just mentioned, and this is a great place for parents to come into the process if you find that your child may need some help in this area, okay? So making sure, number one, that when our students are in SCORE, SCORE is that college and career software I'll go ahead and go into my account, that in SCORE, all of their colleges are falling, and this might be really new to all of you. You may have never seen SCORE before, but this is what our demo account looks like. That when they're in SCORE, they have a college list. We call that following, okay? And I told them, before you come to group, please do this. And gosh, they've been really good. I mean, they opened we saw like 220 kids today. We likely saw one of many of yours. Open the Chromebooks, they're in there, like they're listening. I'll take it, all right? It's a tough thing when you've got about 700 of them and 4 of us to get them all on board, but we think they're in a good place. Today was good. So we're asking them to get into SCORE, build a following list of schools, create an equal balance of schools, and then somewhere even outside of SCORE, perhaps they organize that list, okay? There's a lot of templates on the web for like making a college spreadsheet. I've linked to in here. You can go to the doc, you can open them up, but we're talking about a place to keep everything together. So deadline dates, if you're interested in things like application fees, majors, distance from home, cost, deadlines for things, all of that can be in one place. And if they're not a spreadsheet kind of person, don't force that spreadsheet on them. Ask them if they just want to like use their phone, maybe a notes app, maybe they want a big board at home, a dry erase, whatever works for them is fine. They can also just leave everything right here in SCORE, but it might not all look, the same for them. So usually charts end up being the best for students. Part of organization not only is building that list of probables, targets, and reaches. We've talked about a lot of that in junior year, but it's making sure they've got a good hold on their deadlines. So of all the schools they're applying to, what are those deadlines? Do they have any coming up that are October 15th? Do they have a November 1st? Chances are yes. A lot of our seniors do have a November 1st deadline if they're doing early programs, or are they pushing everything to regular decision and it's going to be due in January? That organization before they embark on the next couple of steps is key. Once they have a secure idea of the schools they're applying to and those deadlines, that's a pretty good indicator they can start to move on with applying and all the other steps. Lists are going to change, okay? So students that are applying under these early programs, early action, early decision, they're going to start getting results back in December. And if things aren't going quite the way they thought, they may add more schools on, and that's okay. Lists can very much be fluid. And then we've been talking to students about considering a New Jersey state school. Moving into step 2, this is the actual account creation, the application account creation. This has been in front of them since June. So when they ended junior year, they got a pretty bulky summer college planning email. And I said, hey, it's there. You can open it or you can ignore it for the next 12 weeks. Based on what I heard at the end of the year, based on the 175 students in this class that I saw in my 3 summer Common App workshops, there was some good touch on the college process this summer. And just based on what we're hearing already this year, they're not coming into this year completely clueless. This class has a decent handle on what's going on. So this is not the first time they're hearing the words Common App. They received back in the summer, June, a very thorough guide on how to fill out the Common App. It's written by me. It's not, you can find Common App guides all over the internet. But this is my advice on how to build and create a really strong application. So they go through this. You can see, look at these kids in there right now working on their Common App. Look at them. So this is it. It's every section of the Common App explained. The activities section, super, super important, lots of advice in there. There's a whole section down here about waiving your FERPA rights, how to invite your recommenders, all that stuff is in here. If they're filling out the Common App and this is not open on another tab, tell them to get this open. This is really, really important. It will get them successfully through the Common App. There's basically 3 ways to apply to college. You can use the Common App, and over 1,000 schools take it. So they're going to find that the Common App is linked up with most of their schools. They can also, if a school doesn't take the Common App, and I put a couple examples of popular non-Common App colleges here where our kids apply, Georgetown, MIT, the whole University of California system, service academies, a couple others were mentioned today in our groups. They'll go right to that college's website and create an account. And I don't have a guide for every application out there, but if they can fill out the Common App, which is, there's a lot to it, they can fill out pretty much any other app, okay? The third way to apply to colleges is something called Apply with Score. So in Score, in their college and career software, there is an option to actually apply to colleges right through this site. We're still new to Score. And I'm not one to bite off more than I can chew. We are not quite here yet. If a student wants to do it, follow the prompts, apply with Score. We'll support them. We'll help them as needed. But there really isn't a need. We are recommending it if a student happens to be applying to more than 20 schools. It's a lot of schools. We encourage that student to meet with us. And they're maxed out in Common App because Common App only allows 20. They can use it. But otherwise, we're not encouraging. We're not discouraging. It's just another layer of Score that's still a little new, and we're just not diving right into that yet. We encourage the use of Common App. So that's steps 1 and 2, okay? So we're getting organized, we're working on our apps, and then we have our first stop here and read, where we read it together with them in the group. And this is where we sort of try to help this make sense, because they're starting to work on applications, but they know my high school's supposed to send a couple things out for me. So what happens and when? And these next few bullets explain that. And we explain to students, and we'll explain to parents, that the process of applying is 100% the student's responsibility. So we are not sending their applications out, they are. They're working on them over time, and they're submitting them. When they submit them is completely up to them, as long as it's submitted by the deadline date. At the same time, the counseling office and the teachers are working on their part, okay? So everyone's kind of has a job, and I think parents obviously get this a lot more. For them, it just takes a little while. Everyone's got a job, and everyone's doing everything at the same time, but they need to initiate the school to do our part, okay? So we tell the students, everything's happening kind of independent of one another, and all that matters is that application and our pieces just get to the college on time. It doesn't matter what order. That is completely irrelevant, okay? So we get students going, well, wait, so I have to make a transcript request, I have to make a teacher request. Do I need to apply first? And we go, no, not unless you're planning to apply everywhere a month in advance. And I could tell you at 17 and 18, that's probably not happening, all right? They're gonna work maybe up to the day it's due, and that's okay. But it's all happening independent of one another, okay? So when we move into this next part, that sort of starts to make sense to them. It does not matter the order in which things get to a college as long as it all gets there on time, okay? So then we explain to them, you have some things you need to do, and you need to give some lead time for those things to happen. Okay, so the next phase of this process is actually working in SCORE, okay? So step 3, starting on September 19th, on Tuesday, right at the end of the day, we're going to kind of turn on everything, okay? The reason we're doing that is because we need to see all 700 of them to teach them how to do it. If you put a process out to 717 and 18-year-olds without showing them first, it creates a lot of chaos, and I learned that the hard way here about 12 years ago. So we now wait. We wait till we get everybody in front of us, we show them the process, and then we light it up. This is the timeline we have every year. Nothing's later, nothing's earlier. We always start it right around this same time. So a lot of this will become available on Tuesday. When seniors log in to SCORE, anytime on Tuesday after 2:15, they're going to get what you call a call out. So they're going to log in, and before they even hit their SCORE homepage, they're going to have a FERPA release. They've already done the FERPA release if they turned in those counselor questionnaire forms, and you'd know what I'm talking about because there were parent questions to it. All right, so the counselor questionnaires, I'm going to just dive over to those for a second. These came out in January when they were juniors. This is a pretty hefty questionnaire that goes to the counselor, and it helps them write the letter of recommendation, okay? January. Due in May. We saw them in June. We extended it to July 1st. So they're still outstanding. All 3 counselors are still missing some. These are really important questions for your student to answer if they didn't do this. It helps the counselor write the letter of rec. There's questions for them. There's questions for you. And then there's going to be a little activity questionnaire, okay? These counselors know your students well. This enhances that. So this is the opportunity for students, parents, to put words together that really bring your child to life, okay, and really add something to them. And at the end of those questionnaires, there was a waiver form. So if they did the questionnaires, they did the waiver. All they need to do now is just do a waiver and SCORE, okay? This process will explain to them how to do it, and what they're doing is they're granting or waiving their rights to see their letters of recommendation. This is usually a universal thing for us. Everybody waives their rights. This is also global. This is not a central thing. High school seniors everywhere are doing FERPA waivers. And what it is it's saying, I'm okay with not seeing my letters of rec. I don't need to see them. I trust in my writers. I trust in my recommenders. And if they don't waive, we have to tell the college that they wanted their eyes on those letters of rec. And that does raise a red flag to schools. So everybody waives. And they're going to see that. Once they do that waiver, the release in the waiver, and do it, it's going to disappear. The call out won't happen again in SCORE. It's going to be gone. It's going to be done, okay, for the year. We move into recommendations. I'm not going to go over specifics or show you exactly how it's done. We're doing that in our groups with our students because they're the ones who are going to do this process. But I'll go over a few things. The ability to start requesting teacher recommendations will be turned on Tuesday at 2:15. And the lead time for this is a month. Okay, so if they have a November 1st deadline, they need to make their teacher recommendation request and SCORE by October 1st, anytime before October 1st. Of course, we have another big deadline that happens before that, and that's our October 15s. This morning, we pushed an email out to seniors, and most of those emails to seniors about college things are coming from me, and I gave them a speech at the class meeting on Tuesday, about checking email. I'd appreciate if you'd piggyback on that at home. I can't tell you how vital that is right now. Checking email is so critical because to reach out to 700 students, it has to be an email. And my emails are really clear. The subject lines are really clear. I usually put stars on each end, and I try to be really concise in my emails because I know they're getting a lot. But they're really important. So this morning's email was, do you have October 15th deadlines? Like, it couldn't be more clear. Open it up, fill out this form. The reason we're asking for students who have October 15 deadlines or colleges with rolling admission is we want to get a capture on those now, because 1 month before October 15 is tomorrow, and they can't begin requesting till next week. Now, when requesting opens up, they need to get in there, and they will be nudged and reminded to get in there. But we want to grasp who those seniors are who we need to get working on first, who the counselor needs to write for, the teacher needs to write for. So we have a Google form out there in their email as of this morning, and they did it. I mean, that Google Forms spreadsheet filled up really fast. So they know. I'm really impressed. I think a lot of these kids know what's going on. 10-15 deadlines, rolling admission colleges. We're asking them, we're giving them a couple days to fill that out. They do not have to apply to colleges by October 15th. Those 6 or 7 schools I listed in the email that have October 15 deadlines also have a January regular decision deadline. They do not have to apply by October 15th. It's an option. That's gonna creep up on these kids really fast. I mean, we see how fast September moves. You blink and it's gone. It's gonna creep up, and they might not be ready, and they may push to regular, and that's perfectly fine. So we gotta capture, I think we've had 60, 70, maybe more seniors in there saying, yep, I have a deadline. So we're grasping those. We're letting the teachers know in the next couple days so we can get working on those. But when things open up on Tuesday afternoon, they need to get in there and start requesting. October 15 exists at like 6 or 7 southern schools, early action, where we happen to do quite a bit of volume. Clemson, South Carolina, UNC, Auburn, what's that? Well, then no, maybe NC State, Georgia Tech. No, that's in-state only. There's a handful. They know. I mean, those are schools where we do a lot of volume. So that is out. Okay, making a request in SCORE for a teacher recommendation is so simple, simpler than it was in Naviance. I actually really like it. We put a screenshot in. So if they start to go through these bullets and they're following and they're clicking my colleges and then they don't see it, it's because it's not on yet. We already got those emails. But I'm following your directions. Yes, but you were in my group today, and I told you it's not going to be available till the 19th. So it's just helping them. It's a lot of information, but it is spelled out very clearly, okay? So after 2:15 on the 19th, they can follow these instructions. They can go in. They can request their teacher recommendations. They're in. They can check the status of them. Done. They don't need to touch that again this year, okay? When you request a teacher recommendation at SCORE, the teacher is alerted. The request is there. They'll work on it. That letter will live in SCORE for the rest of the year. It will go out to all colleges, even ones they add on 3 months from now. Okay, so it's a one and done deal. That request should not be happening unless your student had a verbal conversation with agreement from that teacher. That opened up back in January. You're going to hear me reference January. January is when we kicked all this off with juniors, now seniors, and said, go start asking. And asking at Hunterdon Central begins with a verbal conversation. They have to have approached that teacher and asked them, not by email, a verbal conversation. That teacher should have agreed, and that's it. Teacher kind of tucks away who they're writing for, student keeps track of it all, and that's how it starts. What students are not allowed to do is just go and SCORE next week and start picking teachers that they've never talked to about it. Teacher letter writing is a big initiative. Our teachers are writing those letters on their own time outside of school. Some of them are capping how many letters they're willing to write. If your student has not asked anyone for letters at this time, it is wise that they do that very soon. Okay? Ideally, 2 teacher letters. Ideally, 1 is okay for most schools, but 2 is great, and then they're going to have their counselor letter separately. Okay? So those are teacher recommendations. If questions are building up, just jot them down. We'll take them at the end. If you're tuning in from home, I'm just going to jump back to my slides and show you there is a link here where you can ask a question. A little bit.ly link here where you can ask a question. I'll leave that up for a moment if you're tuning in from home and just want to jot that down. All right, so we're going to dive back to this procedures document. We've got screenshots. We ask the students, please don't bother your teachers and email them 2 weeks before your deadline. You haven't sent it yet. Give them time. They're working, they're teaching, they're prepping. They're busy, and they need that time. We ask students to wait up to 3 school days before their deadline to start a gentle nudge. Emailing their teacher, finding them in the hall, checking in, hey, my deadline's coming up, just making sure. And 99% of the time, it's going to be, yes, I'm getting to it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be done by your deadline. Our teachers will meet deadlines. We all will meet deadlines, okay? We just ask the seniors to not email aggressively. It does happen. It just takes away from the time that they can spend writing, okay? Step 5 is going to be the transcript request, okay? They need an official transcript to go to colleges and the counselor's letter of recommendations. We have the teacher part and we have the counseling office's part. Again, this is a lead time, and this lead time isn't quite a month, it's 15 school days. Today we reminded them what a school day is, okay? So for example, next Friday the 22nd is not a school day. That's a day they're not here and staff is only here doing professional development. That's not considered a school day. Holidays are not, Saturdays and Sundays are not, those aren't school days. So we made a chart just to help them out a little bit, count backwards for them so they don't have to worry about that. But 15 school days is required. So if they have an October 15th deadline, that 15 school day mark is next week. It's the 21st. If they have rolling admission, 15 school days, it's as soon as possible. If your student has October 15 deadlines or a college with rolling admission, they need to get in and make these requests as soon as possible after things open up next week, okay? Rolling admission, the sooner you apply, the better, okay? It's like a rolling ball. As applications come in, decisions go out. We have a handful of schools that we work with that are rolling admission, popular ones being Penn State and University of Pittsburgh. When we see those come up in the queue, we're on it. Okay, we're on those, we're on the 10-15s, that's the priority right now. A lot of seniors have 11-1 deadlines. But if your child has a November 1st deadline and no 10-15 and no rolling, they're gonna be pushed to the back for now. We'll get to them, their deadline will be met, but we have priority to rolling admission to help those kids score their best chance possible and 10-15 hard deadlines, okay? Going through this process, this is really straightforward. I think they like this today, seeing how easy this is. Submitting a transcript request and a counselor letter of recommendation request in SCORE is actually really easy. It's what we call a movement, okay? So in SCORE, and it's all explained here, so once things turn on next week, they can just follow the instructions. In their SCORE account, they've got this following list that they're working on. So ask them, what are you following in SCORE? Let me see your following list, okay? When it's time, anytime after next Tuesday, they're going to start to move those to applying. That indicates I'm applying to that school, so we're going to move it. We're going to move Boston College. I'm going to drag it, or I can grab these 3 dots and mark it. I think they like the dragging today. What do you guys think? They thought that was cool. So we're going to drag it. Once I let go of it, boom, a box pops up. Okay? This box is critical. It says it on the instructions. This is where we get to know the important things. What application are you using? What deadline are you following? I'm using the Common App. Pop in your Common App ID number. Where is that? That's in their Common App account, upper right corner of every screen they're on. They had no problem with that today. And how are you applying? You're applying regular decision, okay? This toggle down here, I'd love for them to fill it out, but I realize they don't all know right now if they're going test optional or not. But if they do know, toggle it for us. It's going to give us down the road some really interesting data on how students did that sent scores and didn't send scores. And that's it. But this screen is really important. This screen is going to drive the rest of the process. It's how the counselor's going to know what needs to be sent and when. It's how the teacher's going to know what needs to be sent and when, okay? So if they're not using Common App for that little handful of non-Common App schools, they'll go click on college website. That means they did the app right on the school's website, and they were probably provided with some type of application ID with that platform. They should pop it in here, okay? What this is allowing is if we end up with any documents, like a college says in December, well, we're missing that transcript from you guys, we can use these ID numbers to start matching things up, all right? So those ID numbers are really, really important. Once they do this, they're gonna click Save. The school's gonna end up in applying, okay? Once a school moves from following to applying, the counselor can now begin doing their part. Okay, we don't know a transcript needs to go. We don't know a counselor letter needs to go unless that school's in applying. And I think they got that today. I think that does that make sense to all of you? A couple nods out there, thank you, all right? So that's it, we've even got an arrow, we've got a picture, we're making it clear, following to applying, that movement is your transcript and counselor recommendation request. So for the counselor, now they get logged into SCORE, it looks a little different than this, and they see this queue by deadline date of who needs to be worked on, okay? Rolling colleges come up with this really outlandish date of like July 1st, because that's the last time they'll take applications at a rolling admission school. Well, obviously, that's not gonna work. So that's where we're capturing our rolling admission schools. We're also gonna be running daily reports, who's applying to Penn State, who's applying to Pitt, who's applying to the top rolling schools, so we can bring them up to the pile, okay? Otherwise, the counselors log in, they have a great view, October 15, here's who needs stuff done, November 1, here's who needs stuff done. So we are relying on your students accurately entering those deadline dates when they do that movement, okay? That's gonna be really important. We went over this in very slow detail today. We have another stop here. Once you move a college, your counselor's alerted. They've got to start doing their part. Okay, so we've done the teachers. Teachers got alerted, okay? We've got the counselor and the recommendation transcript. That's everything from the school. That's going to cover all the official documents that this school needs to send for them. There's a couple other pieces that the counselors know about. The students don't request them. They go out with everything. So a school profile, that's kind of our brag sheet to the world. And sometimes there's this little report called a secondary school report. It's just a little report they have to fill out about the school. So all of that's going. So letters of rec from teachers, letter of rec from the counselor, and transcript. That will help them get a complete application at the college, okay? Then we have test scores, okay? Again, my recommendation of a lead time is 2 weeks, but I have no control over this process. Scores are between your student and the testing agency and the college. Hunterdon Central does not release test scores. They are the student's property, okay? But we tell students how to do this. Official test scores are only available from College Board for SAT and ACT for the ACT test. We don't release them. They'll go right into their College Board account or their ACT account, have a credit card ready, someone's credit card. It's like online shopping, okay? They'll pick the schools, put them in a cart, and send them off. I recommend 2 weeks before the deadline, okay? But here's a couple things, and I'm all about saving money. Number one, check with the colleges to see if these official school reports are even required. In the Common App and pretty much every application platform, you can self-report your scores. If you're not going test optional and you have scores to report, you can report them in those application platforms. There are schools who say, save money, we'll take the self-report. We'll take, with honesty, your self-reported scores. Save the money, okay? So I would check that before you spend $150, $200 on sending score reports, okay? The other way to save money, this right here, if your child is taking AP classes and they've taken AP exams, they have those scores are sitting in College Board. That is not part of the application process. They can report AP exam scores on applications. I recommend reporting 3 or higher. That's in the Common App Guide. But they don't need to send official AP score reports to colleges. What a waste of money. That's a lot of money if you're applying to 10, 12 schools. The AP score report, the official AP score report, only needs to go to the school they're going to end up going to. So if they're taking APs again this year, and they've got a couple AP scores building up, next July of 24, when those AP scores from senior year come out, they'll put it all together and send an official report to the school they're going to. No official AP score reports during the application process. So that's scores, okay, not to be mixed up with score, okay? So tracking and patience. We talked about this with them today. They can track everything. Everything they've requested can be tracked. They can track their teacher recommendations, and if they do need a fee waiver, okay, if they qualify for an application fee waiver, which we explain down in our FAQs at the bottom of this document, we explain how to get that in SCORE. They can track that right here, My College's application documents. It's going to be right here, My College's, and it's going to be application documents. This screen will get a little bigger when things start happening after next week, but that can be, everything can be tracked. When you requested, when it went out, okay? So they don't need to email their teacher, when did you do this for me? They can check it on SCORE. SCORE also has an app for the phone, okay? So if they like that, they can do that, all right? Back to, I have this open twice, let's get it just once. Okay, back to transcripts, counselor recommendations, and our seniors applying early decision. All of that can be tracked in SCORE. They're going to go to My Colleges. They're going to go to the schools that are in the applying and applied column. I'll explain that. And they're going to expand the school out. So I'll show you. All right. Once we have a school here, like in applying, I know it's red. It's saying I can't do it. Eventually, they will get to move them to applied. But right now, if I open up Clemson, you're going to see they're going to be able to track when everything got sent. So they don't need to email their counselor, hey, did you send my letter? Did you send my transcript? The college is saying they don't have it. Proof is right in front of them, okay? So tracking and patience, that's going to be really key, all right? And then eventually step 8 of 8, moving them to applied. This is the one I'm a little concerned about. I'm afraid they're going to forget. So we're going to nudge them along the way. They're going to eventually need to move them to applied. So when they click submit on that application at home, hey, did you move it to applied? We need them moved all the way to the right. So this really is, Naviance never did any of this. It is so intuitive. It is so student friendly. It's just all there for them. I told them today, I made it up as I went along. I said, why don't you make a score date every day? Every day you should log into SCORE. Pick a time, pick a day, or maybe it's every other day, but you need to live in this site. It needs to be in your bookmarks. You need to be in here a lot. It might be on your phone, but if you can just check in every day in the peak of season, so now to December to January, make it a priority to make sure everything is looking good, everything's lined up, everything's, okay, I applied there last night, I'm gonna move it. Okay, my transcript's saying it's not there yet, let me check my status. It is so user-friendly, and it's one of the big reasons we went to this system. Please encourage them to log in to SCORE every day. All right. Now we move down to this bright yellow chart. I think this helps. It helps to see who's responsible for what the student's responsible for. We just went over a lot of it. Their application, and embedded within there is their essay, their application fee, supplemental essays, and if they're visual performing arts, a portfolio, audition, things like that. They're responsible for moving schools from following to applying. That triggers the transcript and counselor letter. They're responsible for the teacher request. We showed them that. They're responsible for moving them from applying to applied. These are just little movements in SCORE. Responsible for their questionnaires and their test scores. So we went over all this today in detail with them. Counselor, responsible for submitting the transcript, the counselor recommendation, completing it and submitting it, and any additional reports, some of them I mentioned. Teacher, completing and submitting the recommendation. Parents, ideally, helping them out with the financial aid piece, the FAFSA, the CSS profile, whatever financial aid forms. I'll touch on financial aid in a little bit. Helping them with all of that, and reminders and check-ins. Are you doing everything you need to do? Do you have this all figured out? Because we really, really, really want them in the driver's seat of this. Please put them in charge of this. I do ask you to not fill out their applications for them. They are learning, they've been learning, they have a very thorough guide on how to do this. Please allow them to do it, okay? And that might mean a mishap here or there. It's an incredible learning experience. They will be okay. We will help them pick up the pieces and move forward. But it's an incredible learning experience when you give them the leadership and the driver's seat in their future. Okay, so please, reminders and check-ins, but let them take over, okay? I am going to be adding to this FAQ section as we go along. Basic things we hear a lot. I applied, now what? Big theme there is the applicant portal. Once these kids submit these apps through Common App, through additional websites, they're kind of done with that. Okay, so let's say you're applying to George Washington University in DC. You've submitted your Common App there. Common App sent you a pretty quick email. We got it, confirmed. And that's kind of it with you in Common App for that school, because now your communication is going to begin directly with the college. So GW is going to probably email that student. We received your Common App. Here are the credentials for your applicant portal. This is how you're going to find out what we might be missing, how you're going to find out your decision, how much money you might be getting, how you can pay your enrollment deposit if you choose to come to us, is all going to happen in that portal. And I suggest they get all those portals lined up in their bookmarks toolbar. Because if they're applying to several schools, they're going to have a lot of portals to keep track of. SCORE is going to tell them what left here. College Board's going to tell them when the scores got sent. They have a lot of places they got to dip their feet in. Organization is key, okay? So applicant portals, that's a big theme of what's next. And then it just goes down. This is the big question. Do I need to submit we still got it. After groups were over, we still got it. So do I have to submit my apps before no. Everything's happening at a different time, and the order in which things get to the college is completely irrelevant. Just make sure you get it all there by the deadline and that you meet our requested lead times, 1 month for teachers, 15 school days for counselor, okay? I have someone else, Polytech. We have a lot of students in Polytech. Those teachers will be in SCORE, available to request from. They are considered part of the Hunterdon Central teacher community, so they will be in SCORE. They are not outside recommenders. However, we do have students who have people writing recs for them that are outside of our teacher community. They could be a boss, they could be a mentor, they could be a club coach, they could be someone that they had from a summer program program, someone from church or synagogue, someone outside of Hunterdon Central, and we have a process right here for how to request those letters. It's really straightforward. It basically happens in Common App, all right? So that's there for them. Students are starting to bring this up. What is the SRAR, the self-reported academic record? This is a really growing thing for big universities that say, we get 50,000 applications and we have to read 50,000 transcripts, and they're all different, and some of them are in a different language. So the SRAR, the self-reported academic record, is a universal place that larger universities are starting to utilize as a way to see everybody's grades in the same format. So if your student is looking at any of these schools, and you can see there's some big ones on here, places we do a lot of volume, they have to do the SRAR. Okay, it's simple, it's straightforward. They make a SRAR account, okay, because we're already hearing, they're already asking us about this. So they're going to get into Aspen, or they're going to swing by our office at lunch and say, can I just get a copy of my unofficial transcript? We'll give it to them. Makes it a lot easier to have something right beside them. And they're just going to pop in all their classes to this little platform and just the grades. They're self-reporting their transcript. So now that college that gets 50,000 apps doesn't have to look at 50,000 transcripts. They get to see everybody in the same way. So it's really helping the larger universities, all right? So that's SRAR. How do I get an application fee waiver? Notes on that. Early decision, our seniors that are applying early decision, usually it's no more than about 50 doing that early decision binding commitment. There's an agreement they have to do and score. I want to apply to additional schools after I already moved a bunch. So it's December, it's January, and they're adding more schools on their list. Just follow the process. Don't overthink it. We tell them, if it's in following, get it to applying. If you're sitting down with us in December and we say, you know, you should probably add one or two more on, we're just going to throw them right in applying. So they just have to go through the process again, okay? And then I just get a little bit into scholarships and financial aid, but more to come on that when we have our financial aid night. So we're going to grow these FAQs as we keep hearing things that the seniors are asking, but this is it. I don't recommend printing it, okay? I just leave it open, bookmark it. It's here on the Hunterdon Central website, but this is our process laid out step by step, okay? I think it's pretty manageable. I think that they look at it and go, wow, that's a lot of words. It is. It's also applying to college and your future, so it is kind of a big deal. And we try to encourage 17 and 18-year-olds to go through it step by step in order, ideally. Moving things all around just sets up a lot of problems for them. So encourage them to go through this. I'm going to jump back over here. If you're tuning in from home, link at the bottom of every slide if you'd like to ask some questions. I'm going to really switch gears here now. Just bear with me here to get back to my slideshow. I'm going to switch gears and talk about these admission plans. I touched on these a little bit. I'm going to actually move around the slide. I should have put them in order better, but early action, we've talked about this quite a bit. Early action is incredibly popular. A lot of our students do it. I would say of our college-going population, at least 75 to 80%. So the amount of work that's going to happen in the counseling office and by teachers between now and November 1st is pretty tremendous, because the vast majority of seniors usually have at least one November 1st deadline. And all it takes is one school with a November 1 deadline to trigger everything to be done for you. Your letters, all that's done. It's done for the year now. So we're just going to send it out to all your schools. Even your November 1s, your Decembers, your Januaries, we're just going to send it all out, okay? That's our kind of motto here. We send everything ahead. We'd rather oversend than undersend, okay, so we don't miss anything. So early action, very common. If your student is not ready, they're not ready to do all this, that's perfectly fine. They can apply regular decision. Regular decision deadlines are usually in that first half of January, sometimes February 1st, but they need to be pretty ready at the top of the new year, okay? Early decision is the binding one. There is an agreement that has to be signed by you, by the student, and the counselor. That's everybody all in, ready to apply to a school with a binding commitment. Early decision, you only do that to one college, and it is a pretty heavy commitment, because if a student is admitted to a college early decision, that contract, that agreement indicates they will attend, okay? So we like to talk to everyone thinking about ED. I'd love to, the counselor. That's a big deal. That's a big decision to make. if a student walks into my office and goes, I'm not really sure where I should apply ED, I go, you're not applying anywhere ED. If you say that, you're not ready for this. But when a student comes in my office in January of junior year and has a top choice, and it's still their top choice in June, and still their top choice in senior year, and says, my family and I talked about it, we're ready for this, we can make the financial commitment, I'm applying ED, we have no problem supporting that. So it's not something they think about or toy around with. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So I'd say no more than 50 of our seniors are doing that. Restrictive early action exists at less than 10 schools, maybe even 5, and they happen to be big names. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go to Princeton's website, Yale's website. It's been a long day. I'm getting a little foggy now, but restrictive early action it's restrictive. They can only apply to that school early action, no other private institutions, but it's non-binding. I don't love it. I don't like anything. You should never restrict students in applying to college. So I'm not a fan. I don't encourage it unless a student really wants to do it. It really closes off a lot of opportunities to get in early applications. And there's obviously schools with restrictive early action have regular decision. They can apply other ways. And then rolling, I talked about earlier. The sooner you apply, the better. So we're going to be on those pretty quick. All right. Supporting your child. This is, I am not there. Gosh, Jen, you should have, I should have brought you in here for this. My children are not old enough for this process yet, but boy, it's coming quick. Please just empower. Give them the chance to do this. There may be hiccups. They might miss something, but please allow them to do this. I get evidence every year by phone calls and emails that parents are filling out applications for their kids while they're here at school. Please just give them the ability to do it. I encourage you to check in, and I encourage this, scheduled times. This has been feedback from parents. It's been recommended by our colleagues here in counseling that have gone through this with their own kids. Pick a time that you know is a good, kind of safe time for your family. I know that's probably tough to come by with everybody going in a different direction. I'm starting to live that and understand what that's like. But if you can find one time a week, or maybe it's twice a week, if a lot's coming up, and say, you know what, I want to talk with you on Thursday at 8:30. We're going to talk about college. But until then, I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to nudge. But can we do that? Can we sit down from 8:30 to 9:30 on Thursday night and talk about this? Or maybe it's Sundays, all right? But pick a time and let it just be at that time. Open the computer, open SCORE, open Common App, get the documents out, and that's the time you talk about college. After that, okay, we're going to reconvene again in a week. If you need me in the meantime, let me know, but I won't bother you. The kids, they really like that. If that works for your family, every family's different, but I would encourage something like that so it's not a constant every day. We hear that in our offices. My parents are bugging me about this, and it's none of the parents in here, but and it gets to them, and then they sort of start to shut down, and then they miss the deadlines, and then we have a lot of things to fix, okay? So support, conversation. If they come home with some wildly outlandish school, ask them why. Where did University of Hawaii come from today? Why that one? Well, they came to visit Hunterdon Central. I love what they had to say. So we'll sit with that Hawaii option just for a minute or something else, but just hear them out. We've got 90 schools and growing visiting Hunterdon Central starting on Monday for our college visit program. They know about it. Ask them. We're telling them all about it. They've gotten emails. These colleges are coming here to Central to visit with them. They may sign up and go to one of them and come home with this wildly new name, and you're like, where'd you hear about that school? Give them a chance to tell you about it, okay? And they might have said, well, Mrs. N said it's a probable. She said, I've got a good chance of getting some merit money from there, so dive in, all right? You may have never heard of it, but there's a reason we're recommending it for your child, all right? And obviously, helping them stay organized, if that's something that you're better at than them, and the financial aid process, they could certainly use some help there, okay? And these are our alternatives. So if you're here tonight, chances are your student is thinking about four-year college, going away to college, but things can change. Spring can bring all sorts of new things. And all of a sudden, it might be trade school. It might be one of our incredible 60 or more programs at Polytech in the adult education program, where they can get, for an incredible value, licensure in healthcare and automotive industries and trades where we absolutely need people. I have, living in the community, I live here, my kids go to the Flemmer schools and will make their way up through Central. I see our former students driving around in landscape trucks with their big decals. They're 3-4 years out of school, and they're running their own business. College wasn't their pathway, but they're making their way. So there are so many options after high school, and this is not a high school where every student goes to four-year college. So we recognize that. We bring people in. We're working on some career programming. We've been having, the last 2 years, we had an incredible, run by Hunterdon Central students, now alumni, a firefighter recruitment service day. It was phenomenal. All the fire units from the local community, if any of them we're connected to, we're so appreciative. That's going to start blossoming into a first responder fair. Firefighters, EMTs, police, all of the different avenues they can do if they want to leave high school and go in to one of those professions. So there's a lot. Like I said, RVCC, fantastic option, great transfer programs, incredible honors program. They've got their trade and tech schools right here in our backyard with Polytech, Somerset Votech, and beyond. Employment, if they come in and say, I just want to work. I want to work 40 hours. I want to start getting benefits, saving money. We heard students mention, going in union jobs. I mean, they're hearing this stuff and they want to know more about it, so we're bringing it to them. We do have students enlist every year, usually somewhere between 5 and 10, 5 and 15 enlist in the services every year. We have connections at all the local recruiting offices. A lot of them are out of Somerville. We'll get them connected. We do bring our military reps to school. They meet with students and set up and allow students to just come on by and learn more about those options. And then we have students who are talking about gap years. Taking a year off, perhaps that's going to include travel, it'll include volunteer work, whatever it includes, we can get them some resources on that. So lots of options after college. We're going to be nearing our end, so those of you that are at home, please take advantage of this link and put in any questions, and we'll be checking to see what those look like. Our athletes, we have students who do want to play sports. We mentioned this at our junior presentation. We're re-mentioning it. They must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center if they're thinking Division I or II. If they're on the fence, maybe it'll be D3, maybe not, just get them in there anyway. Because D3, they don't have to follow all of this, only D1 and 2, but you never know what school may come after you and want you on their roster. So transcripts, proof of graduation, all of that will be taken care of for our athletes at the end of the senior year. We do get a list of NCAA registered students. Division III, just contact colleges to see what those requirements are. It could be a little different than the full NCAA requirements, and they still have to apply. I saw a student, one yesterday, one today. They're single school focused, schools recruiting them, they're applying early decision. What do I have to do, they said. I said, you have to apply. You got to go through the whole process like everybody else. Just because you're an athlete, they're recruiting you, you got a spot, you still got to go through everything, okay? I don't really know if I can cover this as well as you guys. I didn't do a great job asking my colleagues here to come on up, and I'm not going to put any of them on the spot, so I'll wing it. Schedule changes, notify colleges. This is a biggie, okay? So when these students start applying and their transcripts go out to colleges, and it says, here's what I'm taking senior year, and then they come into their counselor's office at semester 2 changeover and go, I don't think I want to take that class anymore. You know what's kicking in, right? The senioritis is starting to kick in. I don't really want to take that. Well, you just told the college months ago in your transcript that you were committing to take those classes. So they're accepting you, hopefully, based on completion of those classes. And now you want to drop one? You need to contact the college. And they don't love hearing that. They don't love hearing that, but they have to. Because when you send that transcript, it's like a contract. I'm going to take these classes. I'm going to finish them in a satisfactory way, and you're admitting me, hopefully, based on this performance of these courses. So when you knock one out, especially an academic class, the college needs to know about that. And once we mention, oh, you need to contact the college, they kind of back off. Some don't, but they do need to touch base with the colleges, especially the ones that already admitted them, and say, hey, I'm not taking that class anymore. Is this going to impact my admission? So that's why they need to be on top of their schedule and what they chose already. Graduation requirements, total credits for sports, they can certainly talk with their counselor about that and just making sure they've got everything they need. And then This one I can definitely speak to, and that's mid-year grades. So the semester ends tentatively at the end of January. We hit the mid-year mark. That's the halfway point. We will be sending mid-year or semester one grades out to just about any college that a student hasn't heard from yet, and they will be asked for them. So if they applied early somewhere, early action or early decision, and got deferred, which means they got pushed over to the regular round, the college wants a little more time to look at them, they have to send mid-year grades. If they're applying to a school and they just haven't heard from them yet, they're likely the college is going to nudge them. Let's see how you're doing in senior year, okay? This is really common, so they've got to keep it up. They've got to do well. I sat with a student today, and who had a couple bumps in junior and sophomore year. That's not uncommon. I said, you're going to be a great candidate for mid-year grades because they're going to want to see that you're turning things around this year, and that can heavily impact their offers, their admission offers. So they've got to keep going all the way through senior year. Colleges can and will and have at this school rescinded admission offers because of poor performance in senior year. I'm talking all the way to the end. Okay, so they're in, the mid-year grades were good, they deposited, and it's June, it's July, the final transcript goes out, they gave up at the end of the year, they're having a good time, the senioritis is in fully in senioritis, and they don't do well, and colleges will rescind offers. They've got to push through to the end, okay? We're having a financial aid night, so I won't talk a whole lot about this. Mark your calendar, Thursday, October 26th at 6:30. It says in the auditorium and live streamed. It will be brought to you in some way, shape, or form. If it ends up not being an in-person program, it will be webinared, live streamed. It's happening then, okay? October 26th at 6:30, mark your calendar. Big changes this year in financial aid. If you've been keeping up on this or you had older children go through the process, the government has, and I feel like I use this word all the time, overhauled the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Overhaul. So normally the FAFSA would open up on October 1st for senior families to start filling out for next year. It's now opening in December. Our financial aid night will be ahead of that, but you are going to be filing, if you're applying for financial aid, and I encourage all families to do so, you're going to be filing the 24-25 FAFSA. So you're filing the FAFSA for the year that your student is a freshman in college. I had 2 parents already let me know, we did the FAFSA. And I said, you did the wrong one. So please take note. 23-24 is the year we're currently in. That's the academic year room. They're not in college yet. The 24-25 FAFSA is what you want to fill out, and that will open up in December. You're going to be doing that based off of your 2022 numbers, income, assets, forms, all of those financial things. So get the documents ready for that. We open up a pretty robust local scholarship program every February. That encompasses all of the scholarships from the local community. If you had older children go through, you might have heard of it. It's kind of hidden on our website right now. If students come across local scholarship stuff, just know it's old. It's from 23, even though that's the year we're in, but it's from February of 23. But we have about 80, 90 local scholarships from this very generous community that continues to give money to our students. And that program is like $150,000 worth of scholarship money. Students can apply for those scholarships for all different reasons. There's something for everyone, I truly can tell you that. And then it ends with a really lovely awards night in this room in June. So they get honored then. And outside of local scholarships, there's a lot of different places they can search. I'll take you over here to the College and Career website where you can find a really helpful link not only on everything we're talking about, financial aid information, you can see all of our former programs, but you can see also scholarship information. And this is all right on the central website under counseling, College and Career, and here's some great resources. Some of these are apps, so your student will have to download the app to their phone, but these are great resources. I'm just going to say this, though. Please allow them right now to put their energy toward their admission applications because those deadlines are coming. Scholarship season for us sort of picks up in like late November, December, and that's when we start to push out scholarship opportunities. They're going to get things from me. They're going to see things pop up on SCORE, but our focus for the next 2 to 3 months is admission applications. So please keep that in mind. And I will say, just back to scholarships, I get the question all the time, how are we going to afford this? How do we pay for this? The bulk of your money, the big discount off of tuition is going to come from the institution. These scholarships, these locals, these national ones, all these search engines, they're going to add up, but they're not going to bring tuition down half, 3/4 of the way. That money's coming from the college. And that's because your student is looking at colleges that are probable, where they are at the top of the applicant pool. Okay, so when a college is admitting students, they're bringing students in and they're giving the most money and the most offers of like honors program and other exceptional things to the top of the applicant pool. Yeah, they're going to go down, the money will go down as the level of student does, but if a student really wants to get a lot of scholarship money, they need to apply to more probable schools. This idea of I'm going to get into my reach with a big scholarship is completely unrealistic. So they can have a few reaches on their list, but they better be ready to pay full freight to go to that school, okay, unless they can show a lot of financial need. Then you have the middle schools, the targets. There may be some merit money from them. And then you have the probables, the places that they're not lesser than the student. They're just places they're going to go in as an honors program student. They're already going to be risen to the top. They're going to be in this exceptional cohort, maybe with great housing, and they're going to be in that group, that exceptional group within the larger school. And they're going to be going with a lot of money too. So that's where, if you want to see, well, how do we get $20,000 a year? I hear all these people talking about $20K, $30K a year, value $140,000 scholarship. That's coming from the school. That's not coming from these search engines. That school is giving that student merit money to come there, and likely that student is at the top of their applicant pool. That's where the money comes from, okay? All right. So from home, maybe there's some questions. I don't know if anybody took a peek in there. I'm going to grab my other computer. We are still live streaming. I've asked to live stream, and this is great. 7:45. We'll go till about 8. We'll take some questions from all of you here. I'll repeat them for those of you at home so you can hear them. And yeah, think about your questions. Let me grab my other computer. Okay. Let's see what's in here. Certainly, if anybody here tonight has questions, we'll take those. We do have some in here, but I'll start here. Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, so it's in the Common App Guide, but it was only added in last week. So that was a new change. We are talking about that in every one of our groups. Yes, they do have to go into Common App, and they do have to add a counselor and add a teacher to get the section to complete itself. But they're not going to add an email. And I know that sounds confusing, but it is very, extremely detailed on my Common App Guide, how to get through that section and how to fix the section if you did it wrong in the summer. So yeah, totally answered in the Common App Guide, Part 5, okay? I'm going to take a question from home. Just wanted to confirm, we're not using Naviance and we're now using SCORE. Confirmed. We are no longer using Naviance. Please don't log in. Our contract is over. I'll take another one. Will you be meeting with the morning Polytech students? Every student is getting a pass with 7 different blocks they can choose from across 3 days. So Polytech, we will cater to you because there's 7 different blocks they can choose from. Okay, SCORE is a great resource for admissions data by class. Thank you. We are loving it. Is there a way to figure out the majors or schools those students were accepted to? I'm assuming you mean by schools like the school or division within the college. Unfortunately, no. It's not telling us major. Naviance didn't do that either, but we can break that down for you. That's like a counselor conversation. That was a question from home. That's a counselor conversation. You know, if you're looking at the scattergram for Virginia Tech and you're seeing all these numbers, like Virginia Tech, I think it's a little tougher to get in for an engineering student than a business student or a psych student. So that's a conversation with the counselor for us to help you better understand selectivity at schools by major. Okay, anything here before I go back to my, yes, right here in the center. Mm-hmm. Question is, the counselor questionnaire form, that bulky form with questions for student, questions for parent, activity questionnaire, and waiver, Should that also go to the teacher? No. Please do not send that to the teacher. The counselor letter is very different from the teacher letter. Your counselor letter is pulling from that form. It's a very holistic, all about the student letter. The teacher letter is talking about them as an academic student. Now, some of our teachers have one of their own little one-pagers, you know, give me some feedback for your letter, but they're speaking to your child as a student, academic student in the classroom. Okay, so please don't send the questionnaire to the teacher. Anything else here? I've got quite a bit. Yes, in the blue?
When we signed up for SAT, we could send colleges the scores right then. We don't have to repeat that if the college already done.
The question is, for those of you at home that wouldn't have heard, when you signed up to take the SAT, I think it's still 4 free reports that you can have sent, and families do take advantage of that. Do you have to resend? No. If you selected schools at registration, and I actually think they allow you to keep selecting them up to a couple days after the test, and you have those free reports going out to a college, you do not need to resend scores. Don't pay that money again, but do go into the College Board account and make sure that those scores were actually sent. Okay, and then of course the applicant portals will tell you if the scores were received. Okay, yeah, Mr. Cubberly. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Dual enrollment. So dual enrollment, class of students are taking at Hunterdon Central that are concurrently allowing them to earn college credit. So they technically have a transcript wherever the dual enrollment, whatever college is participating. So commonly here, RVCC, Fairleigh Dickinson, Seton Hall, there's a handful. Once they take that course, they now have a transcript at that college. I really want to avoid our students having to pay money to have college transcripts sent to colleges. So usually what is allowed is the upload of like an unofficial PDF of like what they did at with that dual enrollment. Some colleges don't even require it, but on Common App, they will indicate if they attended another college, and what that means is they've done dual enrollment, and that will sometimes trigger a college to say, oh, we need a transcript from that college now. If that's the case, we can help the student find ways to log into that college's, they'll probably, like RVCC, if you do dual enrollment, you get a portal, you get an RVCC portal. We can help them screenshot a transcript showing that and upload it to the school, but it's so case by case, but yeah, they may need to send a transcript from that college to all the schools they're applying to, but we try to avoid it if possible. No, never paper. We do everything electronic. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like really individual. Encourage your kids to see us if they're getting triggered with that in their applicant portals. Like, we need a transcript from FDU, from Seton Hall. We want to help them save money, so let's have them come in and see us, and we'll help them with that. I think this battery, oh no, it didn't die. Okay. Can you help with breaking down a list into probable target and reach schools? Absolutely. I mean, scattergrams are a great place for the student to start doing that, and because on scattergrams, they're plotted on there. That's all on score, but we can definitely help a student make sure their list is balanced. I'm just looking through to see what might be kind of a repeat. What's a trusted college rating resource for comparing schools and specific academic departments? I don't use ratings. I've been doing this for 18 years and I've never looked at a rating. Ratings mean nothing. I mean, students will say, well, what's the top 20 engineering schools in the country? I go, the 20 hardest to get into. We're not going to do that because the chance of you getting into one of those is very slim. Ratings are college presidents competing against each other. I said it on camera. That's it. It means nothing. If ratings are driving the process, I encourage you to meet with your counselor or me so we can talk more about the driver of fit. Academic fit, social fit, financial fit. Those dimensions of fit are what should drive the college process. There are incredible schools all over the country. There's the names we've all heard of. There's the names that make the rankings, the U.S. News and World Report. They're the toughest schools in the country to get into. Most of our students aren't admissible to them because they have admit rates of 5%. So I encourage fit over anything. I don't trust any of them, and that question was quoted with trust, and I absolutely don't trust any of them. So please use fit as the driver. Do the schools take early decision or early action applications more favorably than regular? Early decision shows the highest level of interest to a college because you are saying, yes, if you take me, I'm coming. You can't get any higher interest level than that. But you have pros to early decision and you have cons to early decision. We'll talk them over with you and your student if you'd like. Early action, there's really no advantage because everyone's doing it. Everyone seems to be applying early action. The influx of early action applications has actually led to some schools no longer being able to release those like they usually did in mid-December. Some are pushing to January because they just need so much time to read them. I don't see any favoritism toward early action. If anything, it just gives your student a result sooner, but that result could very well be you're deferred, you're pushed to regular. So great that you did all that early work, but we're not ready to make a decision on you. ED, early decision, is the only one that will help increase the student's chances of admission. Yes?
So in the Common App, you have to do a lot of stuff that goes to all schools, but then specific schools have different requirements.
Yeah.
And an additional essay or something like
Yep.
that. And sometimes it's optional.
Not at this school. Great question. We went over this. This came up in our groups today. So those of you at home, the question was, you have your main Common App. The Common App, profile, family, education, testing, activities, all of that is seen by every college. My guide goes through every section. Then you have something called college-specific questions. So in Common App, in the My Colleges menu, each school has its own little mini menu. Okay, it's where you do that whole recommender thing. It's how you submit. But then there's these things called questions, and they're college-specific questions. So if you have, Duke on your list and Duke has questions, only Duke is getting the responses to those questions. We call them college-specific questions, and many times within there is where you will find the supplemental essays. Or they make it very clear in their mini menu that they have a supplemental essay. Anything that says optional, students do. At this point in this time of college admissions where you have a chance to share something, words, responses, anything, you do it. It's just the college admissions world is wild. It's unpredictable. It's wildly unpredictable. If you have a chance to share words coming out of you, and you have full control over how to respond to a question, you 110% do it. So we told them today, no optional. Everything gets done. Everything. It's little stuff, optional. Write 150 words about your favorite extracurricular. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you let them into your world a little bit more to see how you've spent your time? That could trigger some admissions reader who's going, oh, I'm a runner too. And now you've connected. That's why we talk so much about activities, like telling students, don't sell yourself short. Talk about all your activities. You never know what person on the other side of that screen also likes to bake, also took care of their brothers and sisters when they were a teenager, also works at Chili's, also runs, all those things. I mean, 40, 50, 60 files a day these admissions people are reading. It's a long day, but something comes up on the screen, some 17-year-old you connect with, and boom, that could create an acceptance for a student. So you really have to put yourself out there, and everything optional you do. You absolutely do. I don't know if there's anything else in here. I think I just officially lost my battery. Don't worry, people at home, I'm not going to let you down. We're going to find your questions, unless, does anybody have them pulled up over there? I'll find them. Anything here? Yes, yes. Go right ahead. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so the question was financial aid, preparing your documents now. You are preparing anything you had from the year of 2022, January to December. So like your forms that you got like in early 23, that's what this FAFSA was going to be based off of. It goes back like 2 years basically, okay? So you want to dig up all your stuff from 22, whether it's online or on paper, that's what you're going to be using to fill out the 24-25 FAFSA. Okay, we're still in 23, so we can't use those documents. It goes back a full year, okay? Goes back a full year. Let me see if I can pull those questions and see where I might have been. There was definitely a lot more in there. Okay, anything else out there? Let me take a couple more and then we'll get you out of here on your Thursday night. I'm just gonna bounce around a little bit. Good number of schools to apply to. Our average here is about 9.5. No idea how we got the 0.5, but that's half an application. Please don't do that, students. Fill the whole thing out. What 8 to 10 does is it gives you 2 or 3 probables, 2 or 3 targets, and 2 or 3 reaches. Even balance. What we really, really want to avoid is the reach heavy lists, because that can only set you up for one thing. and that's defeat, okay? So reach heavy lists, we're calming those down a little bit. They do happen, that's not out of the norm. We have to help students balance. So we gotta get probables, we've gotta get a couple targets, middle of the road, and reaches are fine, but it's gotta be an even split. And I would say, you know, that 9 and change, that's our average. I have students who apply to 6, 5, 4, but those 4, 5, 6 schools are schools they're really secure. Like I've told them, you've got a solid shot at all of these, if not 90% of them. 15, 16, 17 apps per student, there could be reasons for that. Very selective programs, BA, BS, MD programs, the combined med programs. Hey, I got a lot of time on my hands and a couple extra $100 sitting around, why not? Let's talk. Those are the kind of students we want to talk to and go, you know what, if you get into all these, you've got a big decision to make, okay? That's a lot of schools to choose from. So 8 to 10, 8 to 12 is really the happy place for a lot of our students. Is the SRAR, self-reported academic record, connected to the Common App? No. 2 completely different platforms, okay? Can a student get a recommendation letter from a teacher outside of school? Yeah, absolutely. I showed that process on tonight's program. Outside recommendation process document is available on our website for how to do that. You know, the priority is going to be the counselor letter and the 2 teacher letters, 1 to 2 teacher letters, which will go through SCORE. Those outside letters, some colleges love that. They love to see what the student is like outside of school, but the priority, the letters that are really getting read are usually gonna come straight from the school, but we can help them get that there and see if it's gonna be read. Does SCORE give the list? Okay, does SCORE help students pick probable target, reach, all of that? If you're in your student SCORE account, you may see that labeling. They did that. SCORE's not doing that for them. SCORE will help them determine when they go to the scattergram and turn on the heat map. It's actually really cool, and I didn't have the time tonight to get into that, but go in your student SCORE account and check it out. They can plot themselves compared to the last year's classes, but if you go in SCORE and your kid's following list actually says probable, likely, they did that. And I have to redo that for some students. I did sit with a student today who had probable for a lot more schools than I thought, and we adjusted, and I said, now look at the balance. We need more probables, because what you thought was a probable is not, and that's me coming out of last year and getting a better handle on admission chances. When a student starts an application, can they leave it and come back to it? Absolutely. Save your work, hit continue. Make sure you always finish the page you're on. No, it doesn't have to be in one sitting, and you are welcome for the presentation. Okay, thank you all so much. If you have additional questions, email us, okay? Get in touch with us. That's what we're here for. If your students are coming to group tomorrow or Monday, check in with them. Gentle nudges. They're going to do great. They're going to be great, okay? I promise you that. We're going to take good care of them in this process. Thank you all so much for coming.